Welcome to the last top 5 with Kris 05 for this expansion, guys. Today we're gonna look at all of the best decks from Diamond to Legend, as well as the best decks in top 1000 Legend for the last 7 days. So if you guys wanna hit easy Legend in Hearthstone, this video should be really helpful, because I'm gonna give you the 5 best decks, talk about their mulligans, win rates, and general tips, but we're also gonna check out all of the other best decks for each individual class, so stick around to the end. Would be awesome if you guys drop a like and subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to also check out my new Raid Shadow Legends channel. Now, let's get into it. Before we get into the best decks, I'd like to thank today's video sponsor, boot.dev. If you ever wanted to learn code, there has never been an easier time than now. I remember back in the day I did actually try to get into coding, but I really had a hard time sticking to it. But with boot.dev, they do an excellent job of turning it into a gaming experience. I've been trying out their platform and it really feels a lot like a game. You level up, earn experience, complete quests, and even fight bosses, but instead of slaying minions, you're learning real coding skills like Python, SQL, and Go. And if you ever get stuck on a problem, they even give you this cool AI tutor bear called Boots, who helps guide you back on track without just handing you the answer. If you ever thought about getting into programming, or even a career in tech, this is a really smart way to start. And the average salary for backend developers in the US is above $100,000 US, so it can definitely pay off, and not to mention you can work from the comfort of your home. You can try all of their amazing courses on different topics for free, but if you want to unlock the full interactive experience, click the link below, or scan the QR code on screen, and use my code to get 25% off your yearly subscription. Big thanks to boot.dev for sponsoring this video, but now let's get back to the best decks.
You are not prepared!
The first deck on the list, yet again, is going to be Leech Death Knight. But there's quite the curveball into this top 5, and you might actually be surprised not to see one of the decks on this list. Anyway, this Leech Death Knight is definitely one of the best performers with over 1000 games for the last 7 days, so it definitely is very proven and very solid. No need to talk about too much about Leech Death Knight right now, the deck has been played to death, and you guys already know what you should be expecting out of it. The interesting part about this one is this one still does run Chow Fallen Baron instead of things like, let's say, Zephrys. And we also do have the Infested Breath for a little bit of more Leech presence. We obviously have the good Neralex package, we also have the good Exarch Maladar package with the Stitch Giants, and so on and so forth. So yeah, the deck is very strong, it can play very well in control, it can play very well for tempo, and it can have some all-out wipeout turns if you drop way too much stats way too early. Let's check out the updated matchups, and here we can see there's a lot of green. The only bad matchup here for you would be Egg Warlock, but to be fair, you're not gonna be seeing way too many of those. And to be fair, Taunt Warrior also does hold its own against you, but not that much and not that often. So all around, if you play with this deck, you're gonna be winning a lot more than you're losing. When going first and second for that matter, you're gonna try and find your good cheap cards because you don't have that many of them, but when you get them on curve, it's actually pretty awesome. The best card you could be getting on curve would be Creature of Madness, and on turn 1 you also have yourself Scarab Keychains in this deck, so you can actually curve out a lot more consistently, a lot more often. The Morbid Swarms are also pretty nice, the Dreadhound Handler ain't too bad, Infested Breaths are okay, Chow Fallen Baron's nice, and if you're feeling lucky you could just straight out hold on to one Sanguine or one Elise, but it would be much better if you already have something cheaper than that if you want to be holding on to a 4-drop. A Xavius could be okay, and if you're curving into Maladar, that'd be insane. On the coin we can also see plenty of the same stuff. Here the 4-drops are not as scary to hold on to, and here you might even consider holding on to a Corpse Explosion if you're against something like a Paladin, let's say, but still try to have a proper curve. For other good Death Knights, you're gonna have to scroll quite a lot to see something other than Leech Death Knights, but we also can see Death Rattle Death Knight doing kinda good, albeit with small sample size, but the deck definitely does curve out very strong, and here is a deck with a lot more sample size with very respectable win rate. Handbuff Death Knight is also somewhere out there, and same can be said for Space Death Knight. Here's one with small sample size, but in top legend you could still see variations of this do pretty well. Here's a Handbuff Death Knight doing pretty properly. Stegadon Death Knight is also kinda playable. It's not as good as the rest of them, but it's definitely pretty okay. So yeah, there's plenty of good stuff to be playing with for Death Knight, so if you're enjoying the class, you're eating good this season. On the number 2 spot, Beast Hunter is actually still killing it, as it has for the entirety of this expansion I do believe, but right now it is actually the second best deck from Diamond to Legend according to the stats. There's nothing really too fancy about this version, we still have a couple of Cower and Fear, which does become something of a staple in the deck right about now, and we also have a single copy of an Ancient Raptor, as well as a couple of Jeweled Macaws in this one actually. I think in some of the previous top 5s I did show you a variation with the Fishing Rod weapon instead of some of these cards, but right now, this seems to be the best bet for Beast Hunter. Again, plenty of detailed guides about this deck from me, so give those a check if you want to see the deck in action, as well as much more detail about the strategy. For the matchups we can see there are some bad ones, like Leech Death Knight for instance is a proper counter to you. Pain Demon Hunter could be a little bit too quick and they also have nice AoE against you. Egg Warlock also ain't no joke, and Taunt Warrior slightly on the negative, but everything else either green or very far from red, so very decent. When going first, you're trying to curve off with your good cheap stuff. The remote control definitely is pretty good. Dreambound Raptor is okay when going first, not so much against the Demon Hunter however. Fetch is not the worst thing in the world if nothing better presented itself, and if you're curving off into your horse or into your rampage, those will be absolutely insane. Jungle Gym, if you already have RC Rampage, might also be a consideration if we gotta be honest, and same can be said for the Shepherd's Crook. It's not the best, but if you already have a 1-drop, a Shepherd's Crook, and a RC Rampage, I'd say you're right as rain. On the coin, again, try to be keeping the good cheap stuff. RC Rampage becomes even more insane here, and some of the weapons could also work pretty well, same can be said for Jungle Gym. Basically, things that cannot get removed could be insane for you, especially if you're curving into a big RC Rampage a lot sooner than you're supposed to. For other good Hunter decks, again, Beast Hunter is definitely the proper one you should be playing, but some pros are doing extremely well with things like Discover Neary Hunter, and even though this deck is quite hard to pilot well, if you get the gist of it, you're gonna be doing pretty well with it. Other than that, we can't really say Quest Hunter is doing anything good right now, so let's move on to the spot number 3. And here, believe it or not, Bandage Priest is actually doing insanely well, with about 60% win rate, over 1000 games, so it's actually much better than Protoss Priest for the class, and all around it's actually doing very well. This deck is actually interesting because it does run Nexus Prince Shafar, and this basically gives you an extra layer of ways to win games, because you could be doing Wilted Shadows, just a single one played from hand, and then smack bandages to the opponent's face. With the help of Nexus Prince Shafar, this will be a lot more damage than it's supposed to. Basically, if you find yourself the Wilted Shadow thanks to bird watching, that makes it into an 8 attack minion, and with this thing it becomes 11, so the damage really starts amping up, and you might even give it Orbital Halo or whatnot. Other than that, the deck is pretty standard stuff. In terms of 1-drops, you only have Catch of the Day and Tar Slime, which is kinda interesting. The 1-mana 2/2 that healed both the heroes was also pretty cool, because getting that with Reborn later on with Resuscitate was pretty nasty, because leaving one like that on the board basically gave you an extra hit with Wilted Shadow later on, which was pretty nasty indeed. As for 2-drops, you still only have an Oiotron, but if you get it for your Resuscitate, the opponent is gonna have to attack it 4 frickin' times, which is way too much. As for 3-drops, the Careless Crafter is what you want to be getting, so definitely be careful not to be playing your Chill Invulgent or Nexus Prince Shafar way too early, but the rest of the deck is pretty standard stuff. We even have Xavius in here, with which you could be fishing out your Wilted Shadow with, let's say, a +2/+2, or maybe even get yourself a second 2/2 next to your first Wilted Shadow, which could be interesting. And we also have a single copy of Repackaging here, which could be resetting the board nicely for you. Definitely check out my detailed guide about this one if you really want to know how to play it. And I might give you an updated guide about it with the Nexus Prince Shafar really soon. On the matchup section, we could see some very polarizing stats. Leech Death Knight is slightly on the negative, Beast Hunter is gonna be very bad for you because they're way too quick, Virak Rogue on the negative, and Quest Warlock slightly negative as well, but nothing too scary. So as long as you're not facing too many Beast Hunters, I'd say you would be doing really well with this one. Going first and second, Careless Crafter and Trusty Fishing Rod and an Oiotron should always be MVPs for you. Doing something on turn 1 is not the worst thing in the world, but it's definitely not as important as some people make it out to be. Bird Watching is okay on turn 2. Tar Slime or Catch of the Day could be keeps, definitely don't keep both, that's what you have Trusty Fishing Rods for. Nightmare Xavius, if you're curving into it, could be okay. Thrive in Shadows, I'd say is a mediocre spell to be holding on to. As for on the coin, again, plenty of the same stuff, basically try to curve off with your proper minions, but here, if you already have a couple of the good minions, you might even hold on to Resuscitate and feel great about it. To be fair, we do have a proper Protoss Priest with decent sample size and very good win rate at the top with 520 games, but I decided to pick decks with only 1000 plus games for this top 5 because we are pulling the time frame for 7 days, so this might have just been a fluke for a couple of days or something like that, whereas this one is twice as proven. There are several iterations of Protoss Priest doing really well, however, so definitely still a pretty great deck to be clapping Easy Legend. We see another iteration of Bandage Priest here, and actually the interesting thing about this list is it's no longer even running the frickin' Rest in Peace, which definitely is very interesting now that I said at it, it's no longer running Sleepy Residence, so yeah, this Bandage Priest is actually quite different from what we're used to, and the stats definitely speak for it, so not a bad iteration indeed. Anyway, other than Protoss and Bandage, we can even see Fishing Priest apparently. Damn, didn't realize this thing is actually somewhat playable still. And I have been seeing some control-ish priests out there here and there. Their stats are not super amazing, but it is absolutely playable, I guess, especially if you're good with the class. But I'm gonna have to scroll quite a lot to actually see something of that sort. Still scrolling, and there we have it. Control priests, right under 50% win rate, so if you want to choose violence, I guess you still might be winning slightly more than you're losing, but you gotta be really good with this pile of cards. Believe it or not, Big Spell Mage is actually doing super strong right now, and this is gonna be the 4th deck on this list, because this has almost 60% win rate with above 1000 games, so definitely worth mentioning. I did do a video about this deck like a month or two ago, and it was pretty much the exact same list, so I guess it still remained very strong, and the big payoff cards in this one would be the Huddle Up as well as Tsunamis, which both do drop quite a lot faster than they're supposed to, with things like King Tide, Maroon Dark Mage, as well as Watercolor Artist. Well, for the Tsunami at least, Huddle Up is not a frost spell, so there's that too. Anyway, what you do with this deck is in the first few turns you're trying to get some tempo and some chip damage with the help of your good early game minions, and you have plenty of those. And then around turn 4 or 5, you start dropping some very big spells, with which a lot of opponents can't actually handle well. You also have a little bit of burn damage in the form of a couple of fireballs, as well as a couple of stellar balances, so if you manage to chip enough damage early on, you should be able to close out the game from hand if you can't stick a board no more. For the matchups, again, Leech Death Knight would be a problematic deck for you, Beast Hunter slightly on the negative, and so could the Warriors say, but nothing too fancy really. So it's not a very polarizing deck. As long as you're not facing too many Death Knights, you should be pretty good. When going first and second, Watercolor Artist would always be absolutely MVP, and as for the other cards, you're trying to curve off with some of your good cheap minions. The Metal Detector helps you curve off faster, the Living Flame is pretty decent, Primordial Glyph could be okay, King Tide could be nice, and playing this guy on turn 4 basically ensures the opponent cannot play any spell next turn as long as they haven't ramped, and you could even curve off into a Maroon Dark Mage in some cases if the opponent cannot handle this on turn 3. Maybe you're gonna be very happy playing it on curve. On the coin, it's pretty much the exact same stuff. I'd say here King Tide is also still pretty valid, even though he's not gonna be as amazing because you can't really coin this guy out, and also you can't really play him before the opponent is not capable of playing a 5-mana spell, so it could be a double-edged sword. If you're against something like a Druid, let's say, you might not be very happy giving them access to something like Wish Upon a Star or whatever. That might actually be kind of a problem for you. Here's the list I showed you, 59.5% win rate with 2,900 games. That's all from Diamond to Legend for the last 7 days, so definitely very valid stuff. But we can also see Elemental Mage doing quite well, not as good as Big Spell, but still quite decent. And just for a fraction of the price, it's a pretty cheap deck, but it's actually very capable and very quick. Protoss Mage is also doing quite okay, and Quest Mage is even seeing some decently positive stats, even though it's a random pile of cards and a lot of RNG is involved in this one. People seem to enjoy it here and there. Other than that, we do have iterations of the Quest Mage. Some do actually run some minions in there, but the successful ones are nothing but spells. And the last deck on this list is gonna be Aggro Pally, believe it or not. Quest Warlock is not amongst the best 5 decks, which is kinda insane, and not exactly true if we gotta be honest. I do believe people are just botching the deck a lot, and also there's way too many iterations of the deck for it to have an actual consistent gauge on it right now, but still, according to the stats, Aggro Pally is the 5th deck on this list. This one has quite the respectable stats right now, and it's nothing too fancy, honestly. It's pretty much a super straightforward Aggro Pally, and it's running 0 legendaries in here. There's no Ziliax, there's no Terem, so all around a very budget-friendly deck with which you could be doing really well. Name of the game with this one is you try to Zerg the board, you try to buff it out of proportion, and the opponent stops kicking more often than not. In certain cases, you might want to fall back a few turns in order to be able to actually flood the board nice and well for the opponent not to be able to handle it, but in most cases, tempo is the name of the game. For the matchup section, we do have some quite polarizing ones. Leech Death Knight still strong, Space Death Knight as well. Bane Demon Hunter is a very big problem for you because they basically do the same thing you do, but they also have AoE. Ravenous Cliff Dive Demon Hunter could be a problem. Elemental Mage slightly on the negative. Again, they do what you do, but they have AoE against you. And also Taunt Warrior might not be super happy for you. Going first with this deck, you are gonna try to curve off with your proper good 1, 2, 3 drops, but try not to be keeping too many of the 1 drops because that way your hand is gonna be over way too quickly. Even keeping a wisp might be making a lot of sense for you, especially if you have yourself a busy bot, so turn 1 you could be doing something like a Righteous Protector into a wisp, into a turn 2 busy bot, that'd be a bunch of extra stats on the board for no good reason. Beaming Sidekick might also be a good combo with your wisp as well, and if you're already curving into something like Coconut Cannoneer, that might be amazing. Curving into Muster could be good, and in some cases even holding onto a Flash Sale might make sense if you already have a couple of good prior plays. On the coin, the situation is really pretty much the same stuff, so mulligan accordingly. For other good Paladin decks, this is the one I'm showing you, like look at this nonsense, 59+% win rate, 6,300 games. But we can also see some other iterations of the deck doing pretty well, and obviously Quest Paladin still actually decent, even though on the last top 5 we saw some pretty bad stats for the archetype. Other than that, you can't really see anything else getting played for the Pally class right now, so it's nothing but mindless aggro for the most part, even though here's a Lionessa Pally that's actually doing kinda okay. It's a combo OTK style deck, so it is a lot harder to pull off, but if you get the gist of it, you might also be doing really well with this one, and you're also gonna have the element of surprise because people are gonna be expecting aggro against them. For the classes we haven't mentioned, starting off with Demon Hunter, obviously Demon Hunter still is a very massive class to be playing right now, and you could be hitting easy legend if you know how to play things like Pain Demon Hunter and such, but as you see, we can't really see something with a very good sample size and very good win rate together. Here's the first really good Pain Demon Hunter we can call out with 58.6% win rate, 1300 games, but as you saw, the Pally actually had plenty more. We can also see Ravenous Cliff Demon Hunter doing pretty good. Scrolling down further, Space Demon Hunter still very playable. Shopper Demon Hunter also very good, especially in top legend. People have been doing crazy things with it. And we can even see some crewmate Demon Hunters doing kinda great. Like look at this 63% plus win rate, very small sample size, but still very worth checking out. The Pain Crew Demon Hunter, it's still a little bit under the radar, but it's actually doing quite strong. For the Druid class, Dollhouse Druid still seems to be the way to go, but also apparently Aggro Druid is somewhat coming back. I don't think this deck is as strong as some of the other options we have right now, and it's very susceptible to AoE, which we do have plenty of right now, but to be fair, it's not much different than Aggro Pally, so still, how different could it be? Aviana Druid is also pretty playable, but it's still a little bit on the memey side, and it really does revolve a lot on RNG and what kind of random legendaries you're gonna shuffle back in. And there's also Huddle Up Druid, surely somewhere out there. Here's a variation of it. Apparently it's not doing as amazing as it used to back when I showed it to you, but it's still having a positive win rate, and it does have a little bit of skill testing for you in order to know when to do your trail mixes and whatnot, so maybe it does have better results in reality if you know how to play it. For Rogue, Ferak Rogue is still actually doing pretty well, especially in top legend. And there is this new Burn Rogue that does a lot of cycling as well. Straight out Cycle Rogue is still out there with Everything Must Go apparently is coming back into play. But yeah, all around Ferak Rogue would be the way to go for the most part. I have to scroll quite a lot to see something different. Here's another Cycle Rogue without the Giants even, which is kind of weird. And here's the other Burn Cycle Rogue I showed you. Apparently people are kind of botching the deck quite a lot. It's a very strong deck, but maybe it does require a certain type of meta, and Diamond to Legend might not be it. For the Shaman class, Nebula Shaman is the best way to be playing right now. Elemental Shaman also looks pretty respectable actually, and this is a very budget-friendly deck by the way. And I've also been seeing some Quest Shamans out there, here and there, which is kinda interesting, but still a little bit on the lower end according to the stats, about 53%. It does have quite the capabilities if you know how to pull it off depending on the different matchup, but all around still a little bit on the mediocre side. Terran Shaman apparently is also right about above 50% win rate, but I wouldn't really play that one in this meta. With Warlock, like I told you, we couldn't really pick out a good Quest Warlock right now with a decent sample size. The first one has 2400 games with 58.6% win rate, and again, that's below 59, so I couldn't include it into this top 5. But still, in reality, this is one of the best decks you could be hitting easy legend with, so definitely don't scoff at it. Egg Warlock also is still doing pretty well, even though it is very susceptible to things like Hex and Silence. You could be doing quite well with Egg Lock if you know how to pull out the most out of it. And there's even this new Artificer or whatever the hell called Warlock out there. I gave it a try, but it felt pretty weird. Let me see if I can actually find it, scrolling through all of these quest and egg locks. Mostly quest locks if we gotta be completely honest. But yeah, there was this interesting new iterations of Warlock in top legend at least that looked kind of promising, but in reality I think the deck works despite it being not so amazing, honestly. Still scrolling, here's a Wheel Space Warlock apparently with Bat Mask, that's kind of interesting. And I think here's the Warlock I was was talking about. Concierge Warlock? No, that ain't it. What is even that? I guess this is some bullshit OTK style deck with Champions of Azeroth hoping to get Velen or something. But I can't really find that goddamn Warlock, man. Like, where'd it go? Surely it has enough stats by now. Here it is. Ultra Gigasaur Egg Warlock. Why the hell is it? Oh, it is still an Egg Warlock. That's weird. But it also has the Possessed Animancer. The deck I played in Top Legend was, I think this one. Yeah, this looks a lot more of the deck I played. It's kind of interesting, but it's really not that good. As you can see, under 50%. Even though the pros did well with it. And the last class is gonna be Warrior, with Dummy Warrior still being the best for the class, but Quest Warrior is also doing pretty well, and there's this new, somewhat new actually, Taunt Warrior I did talk about not too long ago, which is doing respectably well, so you might want to give that one a check if you still haven't. And now let's quickly go over all of the best decks in top 1000 Legend as I promised. Here's what the situation looks like. Leech Death Knight at the top, Quest Warlock still very strong, Ferak Rogue, like I said, very promising, Egglock, people know how to pull the most out of it here, same can be said for Chopper Demon Hunter, Pain Demon Hunter also very quick for a lot of greedy decks, and so on and so forth. Basically, these are the best archetypes for the top Legend. Dollhouse is also doing kinda okay, but the rest is just iterations of those, basically. So that's gonna be it for this top 5, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, a like and subscribe would be awesome. And definitely check out boot.dev if you want to support the channel for free and also learn coding the easy way. Thanks for watching. I'm Kris05, and I'll see you in my next video or stream.